Well, research from the past 2 decades shows that between 20 and 25% of married men cheat, and between 10 and 15% of married women cheat. Tonight, we're talking about if infidelity can turn the sex sour. A recent article in the USA Today newspaper indicated, it asked the question, can you have good sex after your significant other cheated on you? There was some infidelity in the relationship. And it reminds me of the scene in the 1999 movie, The Best Man, where the groom found out his best man had a sexual relationship, at least one time with his wife-to-be, and he just could not get past that. He kept seeing that over and over, even at the altar. He was seeing her having sex with that best friend. And that brought up this question, can you have good sex after your significant other cheated? Your thoughts on that, Beth?
I think you absolutely can. Not that it's easy, but it's definitely possible. The fact is, when people, in the scene you were talking about from The Best Man, that wasn't even cheating. This relationship, the sexual relationship between the fiance and the best man happened before they were married, right? So there's no cheating. So I would say that the only one responsible for the pictures going on in the groom's mind is the groom. And I get it, right? It's easy to do. It's easy to obsess about things that bother us, but that's for him to work out. There's nothing that the fiance did even wrong.
Okay, now, but Beth, let's say there was cheating and they were already married, any couple already married, and you're cheating.
Right.
But you get that vision in your head every time you try to make love.
Right. And that absolutely can be. I'm somebody who can get very jealous. I totally understand that. But I also believe that most of the times, not always, but most of the times when people are cheating, it's because there's something lacking. There are problems in the relationship already. And in some ways, the cheating or the discovery of the cheating actually can be this big bomb that goes off that, if you're open to it, can cause you to really now take a good hard look at what's been going on and to address those issues. And doing so can actually then bring you closer together. It's a very strange thing, but it definitely can happen. And I've seen it happen on a fairly regular basis.
How do you get past yourself and those thoughts in your head and the ability to trust again?
The ability to trust, you have to go very slowly. So the person who has done the cheating absolutely has to try to make amends. They have to go out of their way to prioritize and to show their priority of the spouse that was betrayed. The person who has been betrayed has to accept some, hopefully, responsibility for their problems in the relationship before. They have to accept that cheating was not an okay thing. It's a bad thing. And yet they still have to be able to forgive and move on. And the way to do that is really to think about, in a relationship, if there's any length of time, people have hurt each other in all sorts of different ways. And we move past those. We have to recognize that cheating is a major thing, but it's really not much different than other ways of hurting one another. There are people who lie about spending money. There are people who lie about going to strip clubs. There are people who lie about how much money they spend shopping or going out with their girlfriends instead of the kids. So there are all sorts of ways that we lie to each other sometimes. None of those are good. They're not healthy.
Why do we elevate cheating so high on the list?
Because I think mostly because we're fearful of it. Because our culture has a very mixed up perspective on sex. And, but also because we find it one of the most intimate, right? One of the ways that, and it's what sets our marriage generally apart from every other relationship is the fact, if you're monogamous, you're having sex together, nobody else. And therefore it feels like you blew up the very core of the marriage. Now, there's one way of thinking about it, which is, yes, you might have destroyed that first marriage. The question is whether you want a second marriage together or you want to go try and find another partner to have that marriage with. And either way, we know it's hard work.
That's an interesting way of you putting it. You blew up that first marriage. You can try again, and it's a second marriage, but it's the same person.
That's right. Yeah. And it can be tough. But sometimes I think that oddly, there's a shame now, right? Divorce used to be the shame. Now there's shame if somebody sticks by a partner who has had an affair, who has cheated.
Right.
And that is problematic because, again, there's no set rule. I don't believe that you stay there. I don't believe that you leave. I think every marriage, every relationship is different and unique. But I don't think that anybody else should be judging one way or the other. And lifting that might give the betrayed partner an opportunity to think and to be more honest about whether they understand what happened and what led up to the path or not, and whether or not they want to forgive, because how much do they value the marriage and how much do they want it to last?
Well, some great advice. One step at a time, one day at a time, right, Beth?
Yes, absolutely.